homunculus, as we said, based on the representation of the different parts of the body. So if you look at the coronal section, if you take a coronal section, let us say this is the medial surface of the cerebral hemisphere, and there is a superolateral surface. So that's how the coronal section would look like, right? You're looking at a coronal section, and we're just looking at one half of it. So homunculus representation would be something like this. I mean, this is one diagram in which the worst you will draw, better it would be, because it's completely, it's not in proportion, it is improportionate. So what you'll see, that leg and the thigh part, that is all represented on the medial side. Then we have the representation of the trunk. Then we have a representation of the head and the neck, not the face, head and the neck. We have representation of the arm and the forearm. Then we have huge representation for the hand, which is on the superolateral surface, followed by a big area representing the face, and then followed by the pharynx, larynx, and the tongue. So that's how the homunculus is represented. Just for the sake of writing it, because the diagram may not give you the indication what exactly we are drawing. So this is the leg and the foot here, the thigh, trunk, head and neck. As I said, not the face, head and neck. Then we have the area representing arm and forearm. We got this big representing area for the hand. And again, a huge area for the face. I'm drawing this one common homunculus for the motor as well as sensory. It's more or less the same. So for the sensory homunculus also, we have more, if you look at it's a widespread area which is actually taking the different type of sensory input from the hand, because of the fine sensation can be felt there. And same with the face. Muscles of the face because of the fine movements, and again the sensation from the face, they also have a big representation on the cortex. And then, as we said, it is the pharynx part will be there, the larynx part will be there, and tongue will be there as well. Now, what is also important, apart from just drawing this homunculus, see, when you find these questions, you will find the questions which is a combination of three different things that you need to know. One, you should know that where those areas are present. I mean, let us say the injury is to Broca's area, or the injury is to the precentral gyrus, or the injury is to the primary sensory area. So we should know that where exactly that area is in the cerebral hemisphere. It is in front of which sulcus, behind which sulcus, and all that. Secondly, we should know that what is the representation of the homunculus in that area. If this is a motor section, motor area, or let's say it is a sensory area, then you should know that the fibers for the lower limb will come from the medial surface, whereas the fibers for the hand and the face will come from the superolateral surface. And the third important thing that you should know, with the combination of all three, you can take care of the questions, is that these areas are supplied by what artery. Although we will discuss that artery in a while, but just to tell you guys, the medial surface and some part of the superolateral surface, it is supplied by the anterior cerebral artery. This is the area, let's say the one I have highlighted here. It is the area of anterior cerebral artery. Then, majority of the superolateral surface, the dominant artery on the superolateral surface will be middle cerebral artery. So what you see on the superolateral surface, the main artery here will be the middle cerebral artery. So we got an anterior cerebral artery, and that is a middle cerebral artery, which is a predominant artery on the superolateral surface. So you can see the areas which are representing the hand and the face. So this is important. Legs, I should say lower limb, is represented on the medial side, and that is by anterior cerebral artery. So the stroke of ACA, which is affecting the part of the cerebral cortex, will lead to the contralateral paralysis of the lower limb muscle. Whereas if there is a middle cerebral artery stroke affecting the superolateral surface of the brain, there will be contralateral paralysis of the face, and there is a contralateral paralysis of the hand muscles as well, because hand and face are represented on the superior lateral side, where artery is middle cerebral artery. So this is about the sensory and the motor homunculus, and it's very, very important, although it looks it's a simple representation only. But if you know the areas, if you know the blood supply, you know the homunculus, when you will start doing those questions, you will find out, okay, a lot of questions can be done but just by knowing this. So guys, before we begin with the white matter of the cerebrum, let us also talk about the cerebral histology as well. We already discussed the cerebellar histology, where we saw the 3 layers. We got a molecular layer and Purkinje layer and the granular layer. Now in the cerebrum, we have more or less 6 layers. But before we go to those 6 layers, let me tell you that what type of 2 cortex. Histologically, there are 2 types of cerebral cortex. So talking about the histological feature of the cerebral cortex. So we said the histologically it can be of 2 types. It can be a granular cortex or a granular cortex. There is a granular cortex, and let's say we got a granular cortex. Well, when you say granular cortex, it tells you that the granular layer, the layer with these stellate cells or granule cells, the granular layer is way more developed than the pyramidal layer. Pyramidal layer is having the pyramidal cells, those pyramidal shaped cells which are motor cells. So we have granule cells more, or you can say granular layer is better developed than the, it's in fact way better developed than the pyramidal layer. We call it granular cortex. And a granular cortex means in which the pyramidal layer is well developed as compared to the granular layer. So if you look at the pyramidal cells, if I just focus on the pyramidal cells, obviously pyramidal cells are more in which layer? In the granular cortex, it is more developed. So clearly this cortex is going to be the motor cortex. Pyramidal cells are motor cells. So there is a motor cortex. Motor cortex are also called as the a granular cortex. Whereas we have more number of granule cells here as compared to the pyramidal cells. So that means it is a type of a sensory cortex. This is a sensory cortex. So that's the first difference that you should know. What is a granular or a granular cortex? It is based on the ratio between the pyramidal and the granule cells, which makes you call it sensory or the motor cortex. Now, in the cerebral cortex in human, we have like maximum of 6 layers. So we can have a 6 layers in the cerebral histology. So let us see what those 6 layers are and what type of cells are present in those 6 layers. So guys, we are going from outside to inside. If let's say this is a section in which we will see those 6 layers. Here's the first layer. We got second layer. As we said, we're going from outside to inside. This is the third. We got the fourth, fifth, and the 6th layer. The first layer, which is the outermost layer, is the plexiform layer, also called as molecular layer. It is called as the plexiform layer. And in this plexiform layer, we have all these horizontally present fibers in the plexiform layer, and you will also appreciate some of these supporting cells or the scattered supporting cells present horizontally, called as horizontal cells of Cajal. Horizontal cells of Cajal. It's C-A-J-A-L. Horizontal cells of Cajal are seen in this layer. Second layer, which is deep to the plexiform layer, this is called as the, see this one and this one, the one I'm highlighting here. This is second layer, and then we have a fourth layer. These are the 2 layers of the granule cell. So we call them granular layer. And that's how they are named. We call them outer granular and inner granular. So this one obviously is the outer granular layer here. This is outer granular layer, which is have these densely packed granule cells or the stellate cells. So we have these densely packed granule cells present in this layer. We got densely packed granule cells or stellate cells. You can call them stellate cells also. Number 3 layer and number 5 layer, the one I'm highlighting here with the blue, these are the 2 layers which are having the pyramidal cell, this one and this one. And again, we name it accordingly. We call it outer pyramidal layer and the inner pyramidal layer. So this one is the outer, so this is the outer pyramidal layer. That is outer pyramidal layer, which is having pyramidal cells, but these pyramidal cells are of small to medium size. And more you go deeper into this layer, the size will increase. I mean, we have like small size pyramidal cells in the upper part of this layer. And you will find medium size pyramidal cells in the lower part of this. So we have small to medium sized pyramidal cells. Small to medium sized pyramidal cells, not the large pyramidal cells, right? Small to medium size. Then comes this important layer, that is, again, this is granular layer. We said this yellow one, the odd even number layer, these are the granular layer. Now this time it is the inner granular layer. This is the inner granular layer. Now what about this inner granular layer, guys? Inner granular layer, again, it is having these densely packed granule cells. It is having these densely packed granule cells. But apart from these granule cells, what else is there? The thing which is important to note, you will see some horizontally running myelinated axon in this layer. Horizontally running myelinated axon in this layer, and these horizontally running myelinated axon, these are called as the outer band of Ballarger. That is called as outer band of Ballarger. See, I believe that this could be one of the reasons for asking question from here, because it says outer band of Ballarger. But what layer they are in? They are in the inner granular layer. Outer band of Ballarger in the inner granular layer. And these outer band of Ballarger, these myelinated axon, it is a characteristic feature of the visual cortex. I mean, you'll find them in the inner granular layer at other places also. But in the visual cortex, they are very dominant and you can actually clearly see them. And that is why, because of these layers, because of these fibers, the visual cortex, when you see it under the microscope, it looks like there are some lines which are drawn inside in the gray matter. And those lines are nothing but the striations. And that is why visual cortex is also called as striate cortex. These are a very important and definite feature of the visual cortex. And visual cortex, it is also known as striate cortex. That is also called as striate cortex because of these striations that you see in the inner granular layer. Layer number 5, which is again the layer of pyramidal cell, but this time it is obviously inner pyramidal layer. That is inner pyramidal layer. And the thing to note is that inner pyramidal layer, the cells are large pyramidal cells. They are huge pyramidal cells we have in this layer. And these cells are called as pyramidal cells of Betz, B-E-T-Z. They're also called as pyramidal cells of Betz. Usually they are more than 100 micron in size. They're huge pyramidal cells. They're the main cells which are forming the pyramidal tract or corticospinal tract. That is pyramidal cells of Betz. Well, the reason for calling that layer above as outer band of Ballarger, because we have a very faint running fiber in this layer also, in the basal part of this layer actually, and that is the inner band of Ballarger, which is not as conspicuous as the outer band. So this is the inner band of Ballarger. This is inner band of Ballarger, which is present in the inner granular layer, inner pyramidal layer, I'm sorry. Inner pyramidal layer is having inner band of Ballarger. And then finally, we have this innermost layer. Guys, innermost layer is a layer where you have all these, the Cajal cells and the stellate cells. It's a layer which is a mixture of all kind of cells. And then it is continuing with the deep, this white matter below. You can see it is continuing with the white matter of the cerebrum also below. This layer, layer number 6, is called as the multiform layer, also called as polymorphic layer. We call it multiform layer. Multiform layer, also called as a polymorphic layer. So this is about the histology of the cerebral cortex, the 6 layers that we can see here. I repeat again that these are the layers from outside to inside. Remember that we are going from the periphery deep toward the white matter here. And as I said, I believe that important thing to remember here is that bed cells are present in which layer? They are present in the 5th layer, that is inner pyramidal layer. Visual cortex is called as striate cortex because of these outer band of Belanger, which are the myelinated axon, can be seen or are definitely seen in the inner granular layer. So that's something about the cerebral histology.